I don't want a lack of funding to prevent you from starting a business that can consciously create wealth for yourself. So, in this video, let's talk about how you can fund your business. Another reason why I recommend you start with a service-based business is because you don't need that much funding upfront and you can likely self-fund it. That's exactly what I did with Recloseted. I bootstrapped it myself with my savings and also my corporate salary at the time when I was working a 9-to-5 job. That's another reason why I recommend you start with a service-based business. But let's say you're doing something and you need more funding. I'm basically going to walk through some of the most common funding mechanisms, the pros and cons of each, and then hopefully we can help you decide which ones you're going to leverage so that you can fund your business. I'm going to walk through 6 funding mechanisms, but I highly recommend you focus on just 1 or 2 funding mechanisms to ensure you do a really good job so that you actually raise enough money to be able to cover what you need. Because a lot of these funding mechanisms will take time. And just like with your products, if you're spread thin in terms of time, energy, and resources, you're not going to maximize how much you could get if you had just focused. So that's why I generally recommend you focus on just 1 or 2 funding mechanisms. And without any further ado, let's dive in. The first funding mechanism is self-funding. You yourself are going to fund your brand either from your savings or from your 9-to-5 job. The pros with this is that you can access the funding, like there's no one withholding this money, it's all coming from you. And you also don't have to feel bad about borrowing money from people. You don't have to be charged interest, all this stuff. The cons, though, are that it will likely mean that you're working more because you're either having to work another 9-to-5 job or do contract gigs. Also, it diverts time away that you could be working on your business. So those are some of the cons. And I personally bootstrapped and self-funded Recloseted, and I can do more videos on that in the future if you'd like as well. But yeah, that's the funding mechanism I use, and a lot of my clients that I worked with that launched sustainable fashion brands did this as well. This is a really great funding mechanism. The second one I want to talk about is called pre-sales. This is when your customers prepay you for a product or a service so that you can get that capital upfront to go and develop it. My Recloseted clients, so my fashion brand clients, I used to get them to do self-funding and then also couple it with pre-sales. The great thing about pre-sales is that your customers prepay you so that you have that capital up front to go and then put into your inventory and then make your products. You don't have to put your own money into it, which is great. But then the other thing too is you also know the exact quantity you need to make. You're not going to overproduce and you're not going to buy too much, which is better for the environment and also for your bank account and your sanity. Let's say you're starting a supplement company. For your first product, you have no idea how many orders you're going to do. You really don't want to try to hit a 300, 500 MOQ if you don't have to, because what if you only get 100 customers and then you're sitting on 400 more of these supplement things that you paid for, right? So it's the worst when you have your money tied up in unsold inventory. And so pre-sales allows you not to invest your own life savings into your inventory, get prepaid from your customers, but then also you know the exact quantity that you need to produce because they're going to give you their orders in advance. So those are the pros. And then the cons are that your customers typically do need to wait longer to get it because you don't just have this stuff made in the back, like you're going to go and make it and then ship it to them. So obviously it's going to take longer. And then the other con is that it can be finicky to execute in terms of the back-end manufacturing of it. And so I did previously do a really good detailed view on how I get my fashion brand clients to execute pre-sales. So I'll link it down below and in the cards if it's helpful for you. Generally, pre-sales can be really good if you're doing a physical product business. The third funding mechanism you can leverage is to get a loan from your family and friends and or get investment from your family and friends. This could literally just look like telling your family and friends that you are starting a business that's going to do X, Y, Z. This is how you're going to make money and seeing if they will give you a loan and or want to just invest. I would say with this, there's pros because obviously you're getting funding and you hopefully don't have to pay interest and stuff like that. But if you want to, you can. And then the cons are that sometimes it can be really stressful knowing that your loved one's finances are like with you. And yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want them to invest or give you their entire life savings. They need to be smart about that. But if there's like $5,000 that they can give you or whatever, like that could help. Then sometimes I think if this isn't done with boundaries, it can make family gatherings or friend gatherings awkward. You don't want every single Thanksgiving or holiday season pestering you about your business and all this stuff. So just set boundaries. I once had a client that did this really successfully, and she had a really great relationship with her parents. Her parents funded her business, and she also used some of her own savings. This was great for them because they could use it as a tax write-off, and she also used it as a way to be able to update them on the business, get their advice, and it brought them closer together. However, you do need strict boundaries with this, and you also need to be okay knowing the stress of having your loved one's money be potentially at risk. That's one option for you. The fourth funding mechanism is getting a grant. And I like to think of a grant like getting a scholarship for your business. So you can get an award from your city, your municipality, nonprofit, whatever, and they essentially will give you money to run your business. Typically, this is because you're either doing something different or in a space that they need it in, or maybe you just qualify from a diversity standpoint. So there's a lot of different options there. And the pro is that you get free money and it's amazing. You don't have to pay interest. You don't have to pay it back typically. And so it's great. It's like a scholarship for your business. But the cons are that there aren't that many grants out there and there's a lot of competition because everyone wants free money. You do need to apply. It can be time consuming. And so if you are going to pick grants, like you got to go in and make sure you're putting in applications or high quality applications so you actually increase your likelihood of getting a grant. The fifth funding mechanism is a bank loan. So essentially getting a loan from the bank. The pro here is that you can go in and you're not putting your money or your loved one's money at risk. The con, though, is that you do have to pay interest, and the interest rates are quite high right now. Maybe they'll fluctuate, come down. And the other con, though, is that you may not be able to borrow the complete amount you need depending on your credit score and all this stuff. So generally, I wouldn't recommend a bank loan. However, if interest rates are really low right now and you really need a good chunk of money in order to get this business off the ground, like maybe you're doing a brick and mortar business or whatever, then go for it and just make sure you are comfortable with the terms. The last funding mechanism is investment, venture capital type of investment, angel investment, pre-seed investment, whatever. And with this, I will say that if you're starting a physical product business or a D2C brand, typically investors now are shying away at the pre-seed seed stage just because they've been burnt a little bit with past D2C darlings like Casper and Allbirds. And I think the market for venture capital is just really focused on tech and healthcare right now. Without proof of concept, without showing that you have traction, I think it's going to be quite difficult for you to get funding. So instead, if you're starting like a fashion brand, a skincare brand, whatever, I would highly encourage you to go the pre-sales route and or get angel investment from your family and friends first. VCs also want to see that you have skin in the game. So if you're not even going to invest your own savings into your business, like why would they, right? So I think it's important to try to self-fund, get pre-sales and or get angel investments. I would say though, if you're starting a tech company and it's really, really promising, you can definitely go and try to raise money, but know that raising money is going to take time, probably 6 months, and you're going to have to network, you're going to have to put in the work, put together your pitch and all that stuff. So those are the 6 funding mechanisms I wanted to quickly overview. And now leveraging the Notion workbook down below, I want you to identify how much money you need, what that money is going to be used for, and how you're going to be able to get it. Remember, you're only going to choose 1 or 2 funding mechanisms from the ones I've just listed to ensure that you are as successful as possible and can maximize the amount you get. And if you're starting with a service-based business, I really think you can just self-fund it and or maybe borrow some money from your loved ones, but you really should be able to self-fund it like I was. If you're starting a physical product business, I definitely recommend self-funding, pre-sales, and potentially getting some grants. If you're doing brick and mortar, maybe self-funding, bank loan, angel investment, friends and family. And then if you're doing a tech business, maybe look into getting venture dollars if you need it. High level, this is how you're going to get your business funded. And so leverage the Notion workbook down below to figure out how much you need, how you're going to get that money, and your plan, like I talked about. And then I'm going to send you an email on some behind the scenes on each of these funding mechanisms. I'm going to detail my experience self-funding and then give you some stories about all the other funding mechanisms as well. Once you've completed this lesson's workbook, as well as read through the email, I will see you in the next lesson.